So we're going to move to the Q&A, and obviously we're not able to include him in the Q&A, so I invite the two speakers to join me in the stage and take a seat. And in the meantime, I really want to highlight the incredible work that Rodrigue and collaborators have been doing to implement sequencing and genomics and deliver this project in an area that is affected by armed conflict. And this meant from overcoming challenges with procurement to capacity building. And now we had a first look at this data that was literally generated 1 or 2 weeks ago. So over the final months of the project, we will see a lot more data from bacterial pathogens, drug-resistant bacterial pathogens coming out, and they'll be refining their analysis. So stay tuned for the final updates. Okay, so we'll move on now to the Q&A. Are there any questions on the audience for Gary and Filipe? I see a couple of questions, 3 questions. Okay, I'll start here. If you could please introduce yourself and your affiliation, and then who you're directing the question to. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I barged in. Hi, I'm Nicola Holden from SRUC in the UK. I've got a question, first of all, for Gary, if I may. So you explained that you did your sampling in Laos in the live bird markets. Were there any other animals that were used for human consumption also present in those markets? And would you be interested in looking at them too, or?
So we sampled 2 live bird markets, so one in Vientiane and one in Luang Prabang. And so at these live bird markets, so in addition to birds, occasionally there may be other animals. We noticed that there were rabbits, sometimes civet cats, but this is not, I would say, consistent. So we don't notice them every time we go. So really what's there are live birds. We didn't notice any other live animals such as pigs or anything like that. They just sold us pork, so there's already been slaughtered beef as well. So these I think are pretty much just live bird markets.
There was another question, a gentleman with the
Yes,
laptop. Yeah.
thank you so much for the presentation. But my name is Dr. Idriss Adja. I'm from Institut Pasteur of Dakar in Senegal. I have a question for Romero. I think I have the opportunity to use your tool, Viral Unity, when you develop it at the first stage. And then it is a quite easy to use tool, and then it is a big game changer that you put the front end part in order to be able to run without running any line of code. And the question is, I know that I use it for Illumina data. Is the tool be able also to analyze nanopore sequencing data?
Well, thanks for the question, and thanks for saying this. Actually, it does support nanopore data, but the variant calling pipeline is not great yet. I would usually recommend the use for nanopore specific data, especially if you're working with amplicons. I highly recommend the Arctic pipeline. And I myself have been thinking of actually plugging in Arctic into this workflow, but that feels like a lot of work. Right now I'm really focusing on the front end and trying to make things in real time work faster and more effectively. But yeah, that's something that's on the map.
Yes.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed both the presentations, all 3 of them. But my question is for Filipe as well, sorry. So I think looking at the kind of user interface, I think that looks like really amazing. And the part I particularly liked was being able to compare across multiple samples, and really, I think that's one of the things with metagenomic data, right? Like there's so much information, how to actually tease it apart what's of relevance. So part of my question, I'm sorry, it's like multiple little questions. Part of my question is there a way of filtering those kind of comparisons to try and really, like say if it's not something that's particularly prevalent in your metagenomic sample, is there a way of sort of filtering down? Because when we've done it, we've noticed that sometimes if you're interested, say, in a virus, it's really a small proportion of the reads. So I was wondering if that's something you'd looked at. And then across those samples, how does it scale? So how many samples can you kind of include before it starts to not really work? And then also, have you thought about more complicated virus situations, like for segmentation, segmented genomes and that sort of thing? Sorry, there's lots of them.
Okay, I might not remember all questions. I will try to remember in order. So essentially, no, we have not thought of ways of filtering the results, but that could be a feature. One of the things that Artemata is really something not that community-driven so far, but that's the vision long term. So yeah, we should definitely consider this. And one aspect that I was even discussing with some people is there like the possibility of including filters to remove contaminants that I found in the negative control. I feel that for metagenomics that's particularly important. Well, sorry, I said I wouldn't remember. How does, well, yeah, I mean, in my experience, especially running metagenomic sequencing with the MinION, I don't think it's a really good idea to multiplex a lot of samples. Like the most multiplexed sequencing run with these protocols that I have seen is like around 24 samples. And it effectively works, like it runs. The thing is, it depends a lot on the computer running, especially because that was designed to run on a sequencing laptop, which is usually good, but it's not like an HPC. So what happens that if you multiplex a lot, it will run, but it will be a bit slower to update the things in real time.
And then the third part, sorry, was complicated cases like segmented genomes. Are they handled in any particular way?
Oh, yeah. Actually, so far, as the main task is really performing assignment and not genome assembly, which would be another beast, it kind of doesn't matter. What matters is like the k-mers of each segment for each virus is included in the database, so it makes no difference whatsoever. What happens is very often the underlying tool that's used, which is Kraken2, is not very sensitive for new viruses, which represents a particular challenge. This is the underlying reason why we want to include Diamond, because it's more similar search-driven, and it generates more useful statistics to interpret the data.
Thank you. I think there's another question over there. Over here, sorry.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. This is going to be an impactful tool in metagenomics. I would like to know, does this tool contain error correction, for example, for long reads using short reads? And also, does this going to scale to other PacBio, for example, because I saw it's majorly for ANC, if I got that wrongly? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, there is no specific error correction for nanopore reads prior to performing taxonomic assignment, but hopefully nanopore data has been advancing so much and we have better and better base calls. But yeah, we should definitely think of ways of trying to correct for this in the future. And I must confess that I never thought of including other type of PacBio data or any sort of data that's different than nanopore and Illumina. But that's something that should come to the map as well. But the only thing is that as I have no experience whatsoever with this kind of data, for me it's kind of difficult to try to imagine it being used in these settings that I see people using this.
I see someone with a microphone over there. No? Okay, are there any other questions from the audience? All right, so maybe I will take one more question for both speakers, and it's related to some of the funding sustainability discussions that we've been having yesterday and today. And of course, the Catalytic Grant Fund, it's says in the name, it's Catalytic, so it's, these are projects that are running for a little bit over a year. And so I would like to know, from your perspective, how you're planning to continue with these projects and what kind of sustainability plan you have going forward.
Would you like to go first? Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'll go first. Through this project, this project was actually very, very important for Laos because before that, we didn't have any full-length genome sequencing capacity in the country. Before, a lot of these samples were sent overseas for full-length genome sequencing, and then the turnaround time was at least 6 months. Now it's much shorter, which is nice. And of course, so how do we continue on with this capacity gain? So of course, we want to continue using these techniques for surveillance. Not just necessarily AIV, but also other pathogens as well. And so in my group, we also have other projects, so with emerging viruses and so on and so forth, where we're applying the skills that we learn to sequence some of these other emerging pathogens that may become public health problems. That's one way of doing it. And then, of course, if we were to expand our capacity, in flu, we also want to collaborate with the human infection side, because through this project, this is primarily live-birth market, so we work with the animal people. We also wanted to expand to the human side, so maybe through ELISARI sites, looking to see whether we can have samples from people with severe respiratory symptoms. Maybe they may have bird flu infection. We may be able to try to sequence those viruses as well, which may help guide maybe clinical decisions and so on and so forth.
Thank you. And Filipe?
Well, a lot of this conference, the word sustainability kept emerging, and in fact, we were really discussing this in the Phage Pipe and Viz group yesterday. Well, I think in terms of sustainability, I feel like we should be moving to a model where we have less pipelines competing and more pipelines driven by communities, which means that if you would like a tool, if you use a tool and would you like to contribute, and you can apply for grants to add new functionalities and to keep things running in a way that doesn't depend of a single person. I feel like that would be a major step. And I also to happen to work in an organization dedicated to epidemic preparedness, and we do provide some funding for this kind of work, and I feel like this should be important, and I would highly encourage other funders to also look at that in the way that we need these tools to keep working beyond research-driven settings. We need to bring genomics into surveillance, and to do that, we need to use other indicators and publications to effectively assess the value of these tools.
Thank you. And what I can add from having discussed this with Rodrigue before is that they've been applying for other grants to continue with the work, but it is clear that obtaining sustainable funding from government sources continues to be a problem across these projects. So I'd like to close the session for today with thanking all the grantees that have made it both here on the stage and at the poster sessions and presenting their projects. And just to say, it's an absolute honor to work and support all of you. It's been really one of the greatest experiences I've had in my career, and I continue, I look forward to doing that again.